Sheriff. Thank you so much, man. All right, bye-bye.
We good?
Yes, I'm so sorry.
All right, guys. Well, thank you for being here today, for us to have the opportunity to update you on what we dealt with this weekend. This was a sobering case for us here at the Martin County Sheriff's Office, but we're thankful with how it ended. Let me start off by introducing who's here with me today. And to my left is Supervisor Special Agent Pete Angel from the FBI. He supervises the Fort Pierce office, which has basically the 19th Circuit plus Highlands County. To my immediate right is Captain Gavin Warner. He's the Criminal Investigations Division Captain. And then to his right is Detective John Paul Tillett. Not with me today, but I want to recognize them because they were crucial to this case, are members from a cross-section of our Sheriff's Office. That is our Road Patrol Division, specifically the deputies working in Indiantown, our detectives, and that's all of our detectives from our Criminal Investigation Division, and there's a lot of special units in there. Our dispatch unit, which was crucial in this case, and then our analysts, who also were key in this investigation. As already mentioned, the FBI was a huge part of this. The FBI was there on scene with us Saturday night, and they are responsible for investigating missing and endangered children. And then the United States Marshal Service, the Florida Highway Patrol, and the Georgia State Patrol were also instrumental in helping us recover these two young ladies. Timeline: at approximately 8 p.m. on Saturday night, our Road Patrol deputies in Indiantown responded to a call for service and learned that there were two missing females, a 12-year-old and a 15-year-old, that had gone missing a few hours earlier, they believed. That prompted them to start asking questions and start this investigation. And they learned through their investigation that the same day at about 9 in the morning, these same two girls had gone to a local park there in Indiantown, had been found by a family member, brought back to their home, punished, and part of that punishment was having two of their cellular devices removed from their person. The deputies also learned from the family members, who were crucial to this investigation and helped us a lot, that there was a potential suspect already in this case. And that suspect had been identified through a Snapchat app back in 2025, in the middle of 2025, and the family members suggested to our deputies that an individual on that app may be involved in these girls disappearing. The deputies got a hold of the digital device that these girls were using to communicate with that individual, saw that the Snapchat app was deleted holistically from the device, had the thought process to reload the device, and when they did, they could see a constant thread of communication between this individual and these two young girls, to include the suspect, who you see behind me, driving to Indiantown, Florida to pick these girls up and leave. At that point, our deputies that were on scene realized what we were dealing with. We were dealing with a type of abduction. I know these girls went willingly, but their age suggested that they had been taken and were probably being removed from our area. That didn't stop us, however, from searching Indiantown, local hotels, local areas, parks, and trying to find these young girls. Keep in mind, it was freezing, literally freezing cold in Indiantown that night. Because we know what happens in these cases oftentimes, we were in full crisis mode, and we called out anybody that was anybody in this case that could help us. And that included using every single piece of investigative equipment we had that was relevant to this case. And I'm not going to get into the specifics in that necessarily, but we use a lot of technology to help solve these cases. Also in the investigation, we learned how the initial communication between these girls and the suspect started. The communication initially started, we believe, and keep in mind we're going through devices, in the summer of 2025 on a gaming app called Roblox. And from that gaming app, these girls were then moved from Roblox over to Snapchat. The family told us that they saw some weird things that were going on involving gifts, specifically food for the most part, showing up to the house. All these things I just mentioned were indicative of what we believe to be a grooming process that the suspect was doing with these young girls. Because of all the devices and the information we had, our detectives were able to quickly piece together a timeline and realize that on January 30th, which was Friday, the day before these girls went missing at 9 in the morning, our suspect left Omaha, Nebraska and drove straight through, we believe, to Indiantown, arriving January 31st, Saturday at 10 in the morning. So he drove 22, 23 hours straight through from Omaha, Nebraska to Indiantown, Florida. The girls initially appear to have intended to hook up with him in the morning at the park. That did not happen. They were disciplined, brought home, their devices were taken away, and our suspect was then milling around Indiantown for a period of time. Utilizing all of our investigative platforms, our detectives were able to piece together a pretty significant timeline, suspect vehicle and vehicle information, which was key to finding this individual. With that timeline, we were able to identify what we believe to be a route of travel that the suspect was taking back to Omaha, Nebraska. I-75 primarily. We were able to contact the Florida Highway Patrol, the Georgia State Police, and thankfully the Georgia State Police was able to pull this vehicle over, take our suspect into custody, and rescue our two girls from the scenario that they had placed themselves in. Our suspect, I can't pronounce his name. You can see his spelling behind me. He's a 19-year-old American citizen from Omaha, Nebraska. He's been charged with 2 counts of kidnapping and 2 counts of interference of child custody. And those charges are from Martin County. That's a warrant that's been issued for him. And he's currently sitting in jail in Loudness County, Georgia, awaiting our detectives to get the extradition paperwork so we can bring him back here to South Florida. Now, I gave you a lot of information, but let me just close with this before I open up for questions. We talk regularly about the importance of parents and family members being vigilant about grooming and social media platforms and the impact it has on kids. And in this case, I think we prevented something disastrous. Do I know it was going to happen? No, none of us do. We have gone through the devices that we had available to us at the time. We've not seen anything explicit necessarily, but we know our suspect was repeatedly warning these young girls that he could get in a lot of trouble for what he was fixing to do. So he knew he was violating the law. And we know, had we not found those girls in a timely manner, had everybody here not kicked in the gear and found those girls, these girls would be at least in Omaha, Nebraska, missing. And we have a frantic family. The sheriff's office will be running full tilt along with the FBI and the other agencies I mentioned, trying to locate them. But we're thankful that we're able to get those girls, bring them back here. They're young girls, they're impressionable. I'm not trying to disparage them, but get them the help that they need, interview them, and figure out how we can help make their lives better, and then prosecute this suspect. Again, I don't know what he was going to do, but I can promise you it wasn't going to be something good. So with that, I'll kick it to you with questions, and I'll answer any questions that I can. So,
Sheriff, what makes you believe that there was something, I guess, not dangerous and nefarious that he was going to do to these girls?
So the question is, what makes me believe that something bad was going to happen to the girls? Well, certainly we know that nothing positive was going to happen. In the communications that we did see, there was romantic conversation. Again, nothing sexually explicit that we found yet, but keep in mind, there's a lot of work to be done. We're still going through those devices. We recovered his device, and we're doing search warrants on his device, so we'll see what was in there. But there's nothing good with a grown man coming into the state of Florida, removing 2 teenage girls, troubled teenage girls, and taking them to Omaha, Nebraska. One thing I didn't mention, the girls and him chatted repeatedly about how they wouldn't be able to be found in Nebraska. So 2 girls just mysteriously vanishing from Florida, ending up potentially in Nebraska. All types of bad things. You can imagine the bad things that could come out of that.
Did you guys talk to the 2 girls, and what did they say? Like, why did they choose to go with this guy?
So the question is, did we talk to the girls? And the answer is they're being talked to right now. So it was a process to get them back. Keep in mind they were 5.5, 6 hours from Indiantown. The family went up and recovered them, brought them back, and our detectives are currently with them right now. They've been with them for the last hour, interviewing them and trying to ascertain what all had taken place and what their rationale was.
So you guys are trying to, like, figure that out, I guess? I mean,
the question is, are we trying to figure it out? And the answer is yes. And they may not give us the answer. Again, these are young, impressionable girls who might have thought this would just be something fun to do. But again, we're dealing with a grown man that drove all the way from another state, an individual they never met in person, picked them up, and we really don't know what he was going to do with them.
Sheriff, are the 2 girls related?
The question is, were the two girls related? And the answer is yes, they're sisters.
Sheriff, just to clarify, so they originally went to the park that morning, but then they were brought back home by family, phones taken away, and then at what point do they start contact again with the suspect in order to then leave with him?
So the question was, they're at the park in the morning. The answer is yes, they're at the park in the morning. Did they come home and get their devices taken away? The answer is yes, the family took their devices away. And then when did the suspect re-engage them in communication? And so we believe the suspect re-engaged them in communication pretty quick on a family tablet in the house. And part of that communication was, again, the suspect saying, I drove all this way, please don't leave me hanging. And another key part of that communication was he took a picture of himself inside of the Circle K store in Indiantown in the morning. That allowed us to start working, backtracking his movements. It allowed us to identify a car. It allowed us to identify a good photo of him. We didn't know the name at that point, but it gave us a key part of our investigation, which allowed us to move rapidly. Again, girls didn't have phones when they were in that car, so it's not like we could use the parental Find My iPhone apps or any of those things. We had to use a lot of investigative resources that we had available to track that car down and arrest the suspect.
So the two young girls, they sort of like snuck out of their house, I guess, to surreptitiously meet up with this gentleman?
So the question was, the two girls snuck out of their house, and the answer is yes. Sneaking is probably the wrong word. They go out regularly. They just didn't come home. So they went out to meet that individual.
Sheriff, two-part question. One being, did the suspect live alone in Nebraska, or was there anywhere that he was planning for the girls to stay with him, a hotel, his house? And then, secondly, is there any indication that he has tried this with other girls in the past?
So two-part question. One is, what were the living conditions that the suspect had for the girls, and then has he done this in the past? And the answer is we don't know the answer to either one of them. He has no criminal history. He's never been arrested before. Again, in the communication within the app, he clearly stated to those girls that he could get in trouble, so he knows he's doing something wrong. And then we are communicating with Nebraska. In fact, the FBI helped us the other night communicate with Nebraska and try to get more information about him, which we are currently gathering. So I don't know the answer as to the living conditions.
How long do you believe that he was actually had these girls in the car with him, or in his, I guess, custody, for lack of a better term, before he was stopped by law enforcement in Georgia?
So the question is, how long were the girls with him? And we're pretty definitive on our timeline. So at 6:45, we're convinced that he picked them up and was leaving Indiantown. 6:45, he's leaving Indiantown, and right around 1 a.m. in the morning on Sunday morning, the Georgia State Patrol was able to stop that vehicle just inside of the state of Georgia. So I'm trying to do the math that fast, 5 or 6 hours.
6 or 7 hours.
So,
okay.
What was the phone call from the parents like? What did they communicate to you about where they thought their daughters were?
the question is, what was the initial phone call from the parents? And it was not a frantic phone call, but this was an engaged family. This was actually grandparents, godparents. A lot of support from the Indiantown community was at the house when our deputies arrived there. And they were extremely helpful once our deputies got on scene of trying to figure out where these girls were. Again, they remembered what happened in August. They were in the middle of the summer, thank goodness, which allowed us to go to the app, which allowed us to start tracking our suspect. And they really provided key information which allowed us to recover those girls. Initially, they weren't frantic, but as time went on and as they saw what was on on that iPad in their house, they became a lot more concerned, clearly.
Sheriff, can you address the grooming issue? You said food was delivered to the house. Did it seem awkward? Is that some type of grooming for people like that?
So the question was, can I address the grooming issue? And grooming can be in all shapes and sizes. In this scenario, this individual lived in Omaha, Nebraska, and was potentially just giving them little things that they needed, and just making them feel good about themselves. He complimented them through the app, called the older girl baby, referred to her romantically, and then sent her things. So that's all indicative of what we see in some of these other cases that don't end quite as positive as these individuals progressively manipulate these girls to get what they want.
And Sheriff, Roblox has made headlines for a while now. We've talked about it a lot, even with, we talk about sex trafficking in
Right.
Florida. Is that something that you guys are seeing, this specific platform? And then what's the message to parents when it comes to online activity?
So the question is, Roblox has been in the media a lot, and do we see that a lot? And the answer is yes. And what we're telling the community is there is no application online that's safe. No application online that's safe. Be it a gaming ad, be it Snapchat, be it something as user friendly as Instagram or any social media application. If you can communicate with somebody away from your house in the quiet of your own room, it could be a problem. So parents have to be vigilant. In this case, they were vigilant. In this case, they figured out in the middle of 2025 that something was wrong. They thought they shut it down. Thankfully, they remembered that and enabled us to quickly assemble our forces and make a case.
Sheriff, just to clarify, when they got punished, when their phones were taken away, did the grandparents know then that they were communicating with this suspect?
The question is, when they got punished in the morning, did the grandparents know that they were communicating? The answer is no. If they had their phones, we could have tracked them much quicker than we were able to track them. But the grandparents were just trying to do the right thing and punish them appropriately and then move on with life. But they had no idea that the suspect was actually already almost into Indiantown, ready to pick them up.
You had mentioned that in 2025 that the family maybe became aware that they were talking to somebody online. Is that the case? Is that true?
Yeah, the question is, did the family know in 2025? The answer is yes.
And that was not reported to law enforcement at that time?
Was it reported? No.
Is there any chance that this case would be, I guess, dropped by the state prosecutors and become a federal case, given the going across state lines issue, or you've got gentlemen from the FBI here, so?
So the question is there any chance this case may be adopted federally? And the answer is yes. Now, I'm going to speak for Special Agent today. He's not going to speak, but yes, the U.S. Attorney's Office is looking into this case, and we are exploring all the information that we have. Again, we're still waiting on a search warrant for the phone. We have not talked to the suspect. Georgia State Patrol had a peripheral conversation, but nothing of substantive value, and we're talking to the girls right now. So as this case, as it builds, we'll determine which direction it's going to go.
When do you think he'll be extradited here?
The question is, when do I think he'll be extradited? And I think by the end of the week. The answer is by the end of the week.
Is he cooperating with authorities right now?
The question is he cooperating? And he was passive, but he didn't provide any statements. You can kind of see him smirking in that photo. I think he thinks this is a joke, but he's fixing to find out it's not.
How important was it to get the girls' cell phones and be able to start that timeline that you keep talking about?
The question is how important was it to get the cell phones and start the timeline? It was crucial to this case. We started with nothing. We started with 2 missing girls out of Indiantown, and absent the device that we got onto, those girls would be out of our state, maybe in Omaha, Nebraska. We don't know what our suspect was going to do, so we would be frantically searching this entire county. The family would be wondering what happened to these kids. The community would be up in arms, rightfully so. That one device was key to making this case.
And Sheriff, both girls completely uninjured?
The question is, both girls completely uninjured, and the answer is physically, from what we could see, yes. We are optimistic, again, based on our timeline of when they were picked up and the timeline of when they were the suspect was taken into custody, that Lord willing, nothing happened. We were worried, obviously, about them stopping at a hotel, and you can imagine all the things that were going through our minds, and we were working rapidly to try to prevent any of the above.
Was he easily identifiable through the app, or did you have to really do some research to find out who was behind the person on the app?
So the question was he readily identifiable through the app? We had a good photo. This middle photo is him in the app. It's a photo that he sent. But that did not lead us to identifying his actual name. It did lead us to Circle K store in Indiantown, which gave us a really good photo of him walking in earlier in the morning, which led us to the vehicle. The vehicle really was key in us tracking him down. He stayed live on his digital devices the entire time. When our detectives were working with the device they had, it's one thing I actually should have mentioned, the device they had in their hand, he was still communicating with our detectives on that device. Our detectives were asking questions. He was answering questions. He was showing concern. Oh, please tell me what's going on. Where are the girls? Basically, I care about them. Give me any information you have, and denied being with those girls. So him keeping the device on was helpful to us, and it also showed us a little insight into his mentality. He was certainly not planning to help us with this investigation.
Sheriff, can you describe the feeling when you got that phone call from Georgia that said, we have him pulled over?
The question was, what was the feeling when we got the phone call we had him pulled over? The answer is, we were all out there, and it was a helpless feeling. It was freezing cold, not that the cold mattered, but we were sitting there relaying information as rapidly as we could gather it, but we're still hundreds of miles away from where we believe the car was. So we couldn't fly there fast enough to catch him. We had to rely on other agencies, and we sent multiple locations to them. And when we finally got the phone call that he was stopped and the girls were safe, it was like we all decompressed. The family actually came out and hugged us. They were tearful. They were just elated that those girls were safe, and it was a great feeling knowing that we prevented something from happening, something tragic from happening.
Sheriff, can you just explain that other surveillance photo that you have up there?
Yeah, the question is, can I explain the other surveillance photo? So the photo to the far left is our suspect once he was taken into custody in Georgia. Photo in the middle is a photo that he took of himself and shared on Snapchat. And then the photo to the far right is when he walked into Circle K on Saturday morning before he actually picked the girls up. That photo on the right, we were able to backtrack the surveillance camera outside, and it had a good shot of his vehicle, which was pretty distinct.
Did you say that, maybe I misunderstood, that your detectives were communicating with the, I guess, defendant while he was driving up?
Yep, I'll clarify that. So Will's question was he communicating with the defendant? Were we communicating while he was driving? The answer is yes. So one of the family members took that device, unbeknownst to us, and was asking him questions about the girls. He immediately started denying and switched into this, oh no, I'm concerned, let me help you. And we see that sometimes. Suspects they're abnormally concerned, and they want to help us solve their own case that they've created. And he was doing the classic, let me help you find these girls, please let me know what's going on, keep me posted, I'm worried. All the while he has them in his possession driving northbound on I-75.
And your detective, or the detectives, they weren't like they're using some ruse, like pretending to be a friend or something. They were saying, look, we're MCSO, we're trying to find these girls.
No, not quite like that, Will. So the question is, did we identify ourselves as law enforcement? We're trying to find the girls. The answer was no. We were acting as if we were family members. And initially, the family members started that chat, and we finished it.
And Sheriff, I think that the initial post that went out on social media mentioned an Amber Alert. Did you guys ever get to the point of issuing that, or were they found safe before that was ever issued?
So the question was, did we issue an Amber Alert? And the answer is, they were found about 5 minutes before the Amber Alert actually came out. We talked. We had a really good location of where they were. We were convinced they were on we knew they were on I-75. We knew he had a device. We knew if we sent an Amber Alert out any earlier, that it would actually alert him that we knew what his car looked like. We knew who he was. We knew where they were. So we chose not to, because we thought we could actually catch him more rapidly without doing that. But we were getting to the point when he crossed the state line that we were getting a little more desperate. Is that all? Thank you all. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Sheriff.
Thank you, Sheriff.
Just one thing off camera. What led to knowing he went to the Circle K? How did you know to find him?
Our detectives, he took a photo of him.
Okay. Okay. Got it. Thank you.
Thanks, Sheriff, we appreciate it.
You guys stay warm.
Are you staying warm?